Hey guys, did you ever think, how many of me would be too many? You might be thinking, one is already too many, and that would be a very fair answer, but what about 5? That's right, look at the disconcertingly duplicative possibilities we get with the subject of today's video, the Hollyland Mars 400S Pro, a pretty slick wireless video transmission and monitoring solution. Will this be a wireless wonder, which means, like Schwarzenegger in Total Recall, you should get your ass to Mars? Or will it be a transmission travesty, like the offensively bad Total Recall remake? Let's find out. Just before we continue, a few things to cover, and first a quick disclaimer. Hollyland lent me the Mars 400S Pro to test and review over a few weeks. No money or anything else has changed hands. They've had no sight of the testing that I've been doing, and they are seeing this review at the same time as you. As it gets published, all of the opinions here are my own. Everything we will cover today is listed with timestamps down in the description, where you'll also find affiliate links both for the Mars and for everything else I've used to make this video. If you click an affiliate link and buy something, I guarantee a 12% reduction in your risk of being struck by a blimp. And of course, if you enjoyed today's video, then please like, subscribe, let me know your thoughts or questions in the comments. And with that said, let's begin by looking at core features. The Mars 400S Pro package contains a wireless transmitter to project out video and audio signal from your camera, one wireless receiver to pick up and output that signal at the other end with a connection to a monitor. You get a detachable antenna design, which is helpful for both portability and any future loss or breakage. You'll also find 5 antennae included compared to the 4 which you need, and much like when bowling, it's always nice to get a spare. Lastly, you'll find a plug adapter, which, as you'll see later, is just one of several power options. So what can you do with all of this? Well, quite a lot actually. One transmitter can support multiple system configurations, including up to 2 wireless receivers, each connecting to monitors using SDI or HDMI output, 1 wireless receiver connecting to a monitor, and up to 2 other devices which allow wireless monitoring through the HollyView app, or no wireless receiver but up to 4 devices using the HollyView app for wireless monitoring. Hollyland advertises a maximum transmission range of up to 400 feet and a best achievable latency of as low as 80 milliseconds. We'll be testing both of those claims later, but first let me take you through a simple setup to help illustrate how the system works in practice. Here I've got my camera connecting to the Mars transmitter, the HDMI output of the camera to the HDMI input of the transmitter. Then the wireless receiver over here picks up the signal and outputs it over HDMI to the monitor of your choice. I'm using the Portkeys PT5, which I'll be reviewing in the next couple of weeks, but anything with a HDMI input can work, including a stupidly big TV. The other possible setups use wireless monitoring through the HollyView app, and we'll talk more about that later because it's a bit less straightforward. However, now we can touch on a more straightforward question. Is the Mars 400S Pro well built and designed? The short answer is yes. I really like the industrial design and aesthetic of both the transmitter and receiver. They are essentially the same aside from a stylish splash of color, red on the transmitter and blue on the receiver in an otherwise dark metal look. Both units are compact and fit nicely on top of a camera. You'll see the dimensions on screen now, and at a weight of just 206 grams, there's a nice balance here between lightness and solid construction. More generally, the finish and materials are really nice and high quality, and the Mars definitely has a feel of a premium product which wouldn't look out of place in a higher end production environment or as a prop for one of Batman's gadgets. Pretty slick. Each unit has a hot shoe mount as well as a 1/4-inch screw hole, so between those options you should be able to mount the system in most ways you could think of. At the rear of the unit you'll find a variety of power options, which is excellent for flexibility. There's the mains power adapter we talked about earlier, USB-C power support which can work from a plug or power bank, as well as battery support which works with the Sony NP-F970 style battery. Bear in mind, if you go with the battery option, which is my preference to make everything as wireless as possible, the batteries themselves are pretty damn chunky and in fact heavier than the transmitter and receiver themselves, so using them does reduce that compact and light feeling. On a lighter note, the cheap third-party batteries I bought to test with the Mars are called Bonacell. I had really hoped they would have a potentially humorous name, but unfortunately I can't think of a single double meaning or funny aspect of putting a Bonacell in the rear of a receiver. Speaking of connecting things, the Mars 400S Pro has industry standard options for video input and output with HDMI and SDI connections on both the transmitter and receiver. The full list of supported frame rates is on screen now, but the short version is that input and output can go up to 1080p 60 frames per second, and the system can support any common frame rates below that level. You can connect up to 2 receivers to one transmitter and then have both of them outputting to a monitor using HDMI or SDI, but I couldn't test this directly as I've just had the one receiver. However, as we touched on earlier, having just one receiver does not mean you're limited to one monitoring connection, thanks to our next topic, the Hollyview app. The app requires a bit of setting up. First, power on your transmitter and then connect your device to the Wi-Fi with the HLD network and a name which matches the device serial number. Then jump into the Hollyview app and hit connect. You might get pushed into the settings of your device to give permissions for things like network or location info so the system can work correctly. Once that's done, you'll need to input the bit of the serial number your system displays on screen into the app dialog box and hit connect. With all that done, you're then in the app and you'll find some reasonably helpful tools to check your image, including waveform, histogram, zebra lines, focus peaking, all with some degree of customizability. You can also flip the image in the app or magnify parts of the frame. Great for ensuring the subtle expressions of your subject are as cinematic as possible. There's also an option to apply color profile LUTs with some simple options preloaded, along with the ability to add your own. Some pretty nice features, but my overall experience with the app has been a bit hit and miss. Testing across 4 iOS devices, 2 of them connected and worked really seamlessly, whereas 2 of them seemed to have more problems. Every time I would try and connect, I would get pushed into the settings even though I had already given all the required permissions. I still got those 2 devices to work by putting in the other half of the system serial number, but I'm pretty sure that's not what I'm meant to be doing, and they did drop connection more often and have more issues. On a similar note, while I found the app worked well around 90% of the time, it's definitely more prone to issues like visual artifacts, lag, and latency compared to the standard transmitter to receiver to monitor setup. So I'd say the app is a really nice and useful bonus addition, but you can't expect the same seamless quality of experience that you get going from transmitter to receiver. Speaking of which, how about that transmission distance? Hollyland claims up to 400 feet from transmitter to receiver, or up to 300 feet from transmitter to the Hollyview app monitoring. That is based on line of sight, so buildings, hills, things like that getting in the way can break the link. In a couple of quick tests, I got working transmission up to around 437 feet or 133 meters away from the receiver, and up to 280 feet or around 85 meters away using the app. Okay, so shaky footage because I've had way too many coffees already, but I don't know how far away I'm standing. Quite a decent distance, but you can see there I am. And I don't have quite enough hands to wave to myself, but what I can do is pop the volume up. I'll probably get a bit of feedback now potentially. But there we go. Live video feed, and man, I cannot handle the caffeine, that's for sure. I likely could have got a bit further away with the app test, but it was about to rain. Thanks, UK. And clearly the advertised distances are plausible. So, as I learned from the movie Gremlins, it's probably best not to get things wet.
Perfect weather for testing expensive camera gear outside, right? Could not be better.
Another key figure Hollyland quotes is a best achievable latency of just 80 milliseconds. Now, for reference, our old friend Wikipedia says a human blink takes between 100 and 400 milliseconds. So let's keep that in mind and focus on the monitoring experience rather than getting overly fixated on numbers. And in reality, latency hasn't been an issue that's impacted my monitoring use, except for those occasional times where the app has misbehaved. Across 3 configurations, testing with both 24 frames per second and 60 frames per second output signals, latency from the camera to the monitoring output was largely in the range of 100 to 150 milliseconds, with one exception from a lagged app connection. The 80 milliseconds figure therefore definitely seems plausible in ideal conditions. It's also worth noting that while visual latency performance is good for the most part, if you're monitoring audio as well, even a little latency can cause feedback issues.
Well, that's nice.
So be sure to remember your headphones and, just like me, hitting mute whenever I see Nicki Minaj on TV, protect your ears from any potential unpleasantness. But from audio feedback to overall feedback, what can we conclude? Well, I like the Mars 400S Pro. It's really nicely built and designed with great connection and power options, along with strong performance for its core purpose, transmitting wireless video and audio from transmitter to receiver and then onto a monitor. The range of transmission is really impressive, and I suspect most users will never get close to needing that full distance. The option of wireless monitoring with the app and the functionality of the app when it's working is great, but the slight inconsistencies with connecting, visual performance and latency is one of my few hesitations in recommending the overall system. If you're relying on the app monitoring, then I would say give it a test with your devices and, if you can, with your shooting environments to see how it goes. Whereas if your main use is transmitter to receiver to monitor, then this is a great choice that should do a good job for you. And that brings us to the end for today. A massive thank you for watching, especially making it all the way to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, then like, subscribe, drop a comment, check out the affiliate links, but most importantly, until next time, take it easy.